But yeah, I think ice skating was more my thing. I was much more in control, and I don't like feeling out of control. I need to know I can stop and be safe. I'm just a wuss.
Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome back to another British English conversation with me and my mum. So, Mum, how are you doing?
Hello, everybody. I'm fine. I'm actually okay. I haven't been feeling brilliantly. I've had a cold because it's winter and everybody's catching colds and passing them on. But I'm fine now. Hopefully, there'll be no coughing and we can just record away.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad that you're on the mend. I'm glad that you're feeling a little bit better. And to be honest, I've had a little bit of a cold as well. It's not been too bad. I think my immune system has been like fighting it off, but
Yes.
it's the typical thing where you wake up in the morning and maybe your head feels a little bit heavy. You've got a bit of a sore throat, but it hasn't got too bad. So touch wood and fingers crossed that it stays that way. And given that it is winter and we're both a little bit under the weather, I thought, well, we can have a nice relaxing chit chat speaking about winter because we're kind of in the middle of winter now. We've already had about a month of winter. We're just going into February, which for me tends to be the coldest month. So let's get chatting about winter. And we'll begin with the first simple question, which is just what are, in your opinion, the pros and cons of winter? Mum, what would you say?
Well, to be honest, I'm not a big fan of winter. If the pros are, if it's a lovely day, like it was last weekend, I went for a lovely walk with family. It was a little bit muddy, but it was dry, frosty, blue sky, lovely. It just made you feel alive. And then afterwards, we went to a pub. There was a roaring fire. It was a log fire, so that was warm. It was cozy. So there was some nice meals to be had. Um, so that was great. That was a really nice thing about winter. But come on, asking me today, and I look outside, it's raining again. It always seems to be raining at the moment. So there's not many pros to winter, I don't think. I just want to feel the sun on my face, to get out. If I go out, I've got curly hair. If I go out in winter and it's drizzling, it's misty, it's foggy, my hair is frizzy, it goes like
Uh-huh.
that. Yeah, not a good look. So summer suits me a lot better because even the silly things like getting all the washing dry, if it's summer, you have a nice, gentle, warm breeze. You can do things. You can, like, we have a grandson, we can take him to the park. Winter, who wants to go on a slide or the swings when it's wet? It's just not the same. So some people love winter. I mean, yes, I mean, draw the curtains. You can get cozy. You don't have to go out. You can make an excuse like, oh, yeah, I'll just stay in. But
Mhm.
generally speaking, I would have said there's not many pros to winter. But that's just me.
Nah, I agree with you 100%. I think it's there is no doubt in my mind that winter is the worst season of the year because we think about summer. Summer, you have longer holidays, people go on holiday, it's nice and warm, you have more free time usually. And then spring's really nice because you can see all the flowers blossoming,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's a sign that summer is just around the corner. And then with autumn, a lot of the time, it's quite mild as well. It might be a little bit wet, and you might have like four seasons in one day. But in my case, my birthday is in autumn. And with autumn, it's never that cold. But with
Mm.
winter, everybody will notice if you're watching this conversation, we're both wearing jumpers, and I've got a radiator next to me, and we're recording this at like 3 o'clock. And I'm just thinking, oh, literally, I'm looking out of the window and it's just started raining. And then if I want to go for a walk, I'm going to get soaked. I'm going to be so wet. So I think the only real good thing about winter is Christmas, which is in winter if you're from the Northern Hemisphere. And I guess over Christmas time, we do have a lot of holidays as well. But apart from that, I guess you've got an excuse for not going out and like hibernating, staying in front of a fire, as you mentioned, watching series, ordering a takeaway. But that's it. That's the only positive. So, yeah, let us know in the comments if you can think of any other positives about winter, because I think it's clear we are on the same page. We see eye to eye that winter, it's probably the worst season.
Mm, mm, definitely.
And
Well, for us,
for sure,
especially,
for sure.
yes.
And how about the next question, which, if people have listened to our conversations before, you'll know that both of us are foodies. We love our food. So, in winter, at least one of the good things is that we can have lots of comfort food, lots of comfort dishes. So, when it is freezing outside, Mum, what is your go to comfort meal?
Well, actually, last week we had chicken casserole with dumplings, which is what I'd class as stodgy but hearty. So basically, it's just really easy to make. It's just your garlic, your onions, your carrots, your celery, some stock, some chicken, and just seasonings. Get that all bubbling, and then towards the end, the dumplings, I'm not sure if this is more of an English type of thing. It's flour, it's suet, shredded suet. You can
Mhm.
get it vegetarian or you can get it as beef suet. And you just mix that with water and herbs and salt and pepper, and it's little balls that you just pop on the top. You cover the casserole. It's like a cooking program, this.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, well done.
like yellow balls. Sure. Um, and then you just put it in the oven, and then about 10 minutes before you're ready to have it, you take the lid off and it browns. You can put some cheese on, and it's just really nice. You can just sit there in front of the television or at the table, a glass of red wine if you wish, and it's just really, really nice. Mm. What
It
about you?
sounds
What
good.
what comfort foods, Lewis?
I mean, there are lots of things that I could consider as a comfort food, but I'd probably go with spicy food, especially when it is freezing outside, because at least if you're anything like me, you'll know that when you have something that's hot and it's got lots of chili and it's very, very spicy, it makes you hot as well. So whenever
Oh.
I have a curry or similar, my cheeks will go red, I'll start sweating, and then I'll have to like take my jumper off because I'll be dripping in sweat. So a curry is an amazing option for like comfort food in winter to just warm you up. But other than that, I think, well, I was speaking to a French student earlier this morning, and in France and Switzerland, it's very common in winter to have lots of cheese, and they'll have like a cheese fondue, they'll have raclette, and they'll have all
Brilliant.
these things with like melted cheese and then some meat or potatoes or bread with some red wine as well. And that's very comforting as well.
Mm. Mm. And some people, they like you can have, it's an excuse to have a pudding. So because that can be quite comforting, so you could have, like your sister loves sticky toffee pudding or treacle sponge with custard. I mean, how we don't put loads of weight on, I do not know. Definitely need to exercise after all the comfort food.
No, for sure. And I mentioned that it just started raining here. That's the downside of winter as well. If you want to go out for a run, you don't really feel like going. Whereas in summer or spring or autumn, if it's nice and warm, you want to make the most of the good weather. So you go out for a bike ride or a walk or a run. Right now, I'm looking out and thinking, I should probably go for a run, but looking at the weather, I'm not feeling it. I don't feel like going out at all.
Well, they say the first step is the hardest. Once you're out of the door, you'll be fine.
No, I agree.
I'm trying to
Now,
encourage you.
yeah, I don't know whether it'll work. And
Oh.
one of the other downsides, disadvantages of winter, which I don't think we mentioned, is the fact that days are so short.
Mm.
Because, of course, you wake up in the morning at 7 o'clock and it's dark. And then the sun rises at, for example, 8 o'clock. And then you might go to work, etc., etc. You'll come back home and it'll be dark as well. So
Mm.
I want to know, Mum, do these short days and these days with very little natural light get you down? Do they bring you down?
They do a little bit. When I was working full time, I worked in a school, so I went quite early. And I would go in the dark. I would, like you say, I would come home in the dark. I would literally only see my garden in daylight at the weekends. So from Monday to Friday, it was awful, really. I mean, I am retired now. I took early retirement, and there are a couple of days when I go over to look after my grandson, and I'm driving over. It's it's 7 o'clock in the morning. I get up at 6, leave just after 7. I drive over the moors, so there's not much light, and all the cars they're dazzling. The lights that are coming, or it could be foggy, misty, and I'm thinking, I just want it to be the light mornings because it's just, yeah, it is a bit depressing, really. But hey, you've got to have seasons. We can't have everything just the same. So it's not ideal, and it can get you down a bit. But you just have to think w- as it's getting. I can notice already that it's not dark as early. So I'm clinging on to that hope.
Uh-huh. Nah, I know what you mean. Speaking about that, this morning I woke up at 8:30. I had a bit of a lie in, really, because I didn't have my first class until 9 o'clock. And I noticed that for the first time in like a couple of months, I woke up and it was fully light. And genuinely, that makes a big difference on how you
Mm.
feel, your mood. Because I woke up and I didn't have to like put on a light or anything like that. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe winter is coming to an end. Because it's true that if you're out all day and with this traditional working schedule of 9 to 5,
Mm.
in the height of winter, you're going to see light maybe during your lunch break and perhaps on your way to work. So it is a little bit depressing. And I feel for people who live in Scandinavia, for example,
Mm.
where the days are even shorter. I have a
Mm.
student who is from Sweden, and she's told me that she will go to work and it'll be dark. And then she'll be looking out of the window and seeing that at like 2:30, it's already
Mm.
getting dark. I'm like, wow,
Oh,
2:30.
oh no.
Not
Oh,
cool, is it?
I'm sure Sweden has a lot to say. Scandinavia have a lot of pluses, but yes, that is really, really early to be getting dark.
And in England, is it like 4-ish when it gets
Um,
dark?
we've noticed now that it's about 4:30 when it's just starting. So if when our little grandson's here, if you want to go to the woods next door, we know we've got that little bit longer to go there because they're quite spooky if you go in the dark. It's and you don't want to take torches and things. So we've noticed about 4:30, and then it's just starting to get dark. So which is best than it was a month ago. So we'll take it. Yeah.
Optimism, positivity. Love it. By the way, you mentioned a nice adjective, which was spooky. Something spooky, it's related to like horror stories or ghosts or mysterious woods when it's dark. So the woods can look a little bit spooky when it's dark. And an adjective that I taught this week was eerie. So
Mm.
spooky and eerie are pretty much the same. There might be some nuances, but it's a way of saying like, oh, it's scary,
Mm.
mysterious, spooky. It's very eerie.
Yes. Yes, and I think because it's the woods, if you go and there are a few of you, it's fine, but if you're on your own or just with a little one and you hear like a branch crack and you're thinking, "What's that?" Or maybe I have too much imagination and I need to just chill about it more.
No. Perfect. Now, let's reminisce a little bit. Let's think about the past and think about snow days growing up. So, I remember that when I was a little kid going to school, you'd maybe go to bed at night and you'd hear that it might snow overnight. So, you'd be like crossing your fingers and hoping that school might be cancelled because of the snow. And sometimes you'd wake up in the morning and see, like, wow, it's like a winter wonderland.
Mm.
Everywhere is covered in snow because the snow had settled, meaning that it had stayed on the ground. And if you were lucky, you'd get a call or you'd check on the website and say, like, oh, it's a snow day. School is cancelled because people can't get to school. So every child would be absolutely buzzing, like, yeah. So I remember this very fondly. And what we do is go wandering around the neighborhood, going to the local town, knocking on our friends' doors, asking them like, "Oh, are you coming out? Are you coming out to play? Because it's a snow day." And then you'd go having a snowball fight or making a snowman, but above all, going to the hills. So then you'd take your sledge with you and go sledging down the hills, which in the US, I think they say you go sleighing and you go on a sleigh, but in the UK, it is a sledge, the thing that you would sit on when the ground is covered in snow to go down and be screaming like, woo, yeah. So that's what I remember about snow days. But Mum, how about you? What are your memories, your best memories about snow days?
I used to love snow days when I was tiny, and you'd look out and it was snowing, and again you'd call for you'd go around to all your friends and sort of say, "Are you playing out?" Now I didn't have a deprived childhood. I had lovely parents, but we didn't have lots and lots of money. We didn't have an actual sledge, but that was fine. Most of the other didn't either. We could have bits of old carpet. I remember a friend, we used to have metal dustbins, and the dustbin lid. I remember one of our friends going down a hill on one of those. I mean, he went so fast. uh, it was scary. But yeah, yes, we did the snowman, the snowball fight. See, I feel as if snow was deeper then, but maybe that's just because I was little, so it seemed deeper. But yeah, we had great fun. I loved it, and I loved it when you were little. I mean, that was good too. When your grandma and granddad would come over, you'd roll the big snowball for the body for the snowman, and you put a small one on for the head. We put a scarf, a carrot for the nose, and like if you had some little stones for the eyes or the mouth, and some sticks maybe for arms. And I actually have photos of you and your sister with the grandma and granddad, and really proudly showing this is our snowman. And yeah, lovely happy memories. I think as an adult, when it's snowing, it's like, oh no, I've got to drive in this. How am I going to get to work? I mean, luckily I worked nearby, and as you'd flown the nest, as you'd grown up and left, then it was handy to have a snow day, because if school was closed to the children, generally speaking, I was in the office and we would go in and we would get so much work done because there were no parents asking questions. There were no children coming to the office. So we would go in, we'd just walk there, get lots and lots of work done, come home, quite a pleasant walk in the snow back, and think, yeah, I've really achieved something. But yes, I really, really don't like driving in snow. It's a bit too scary for me. I'll do it, but I really, really don't like it. It's that feeling when the car starts to slide and you daren't brake, because that doesn't really help. And we live on a hill. So as we come down, I can remember one time coming into our drive and turning the wheel of the steering wheel, and the car was going straight forward still. And I remember thinking, I'm going to be in the bushes. But luckily, it was okay. But yeah, so snow days, great when you're little, not so much when you're an adult and you need to be somewhere else.
I mean, maybe that means that I'm still a child because I still love snow days because I never drive anywhere. So
It's true. Living in a city. Yes.
living in a city, not needing to drive anywhere because, of course, my work doesn't change. So for me, I feel a bit snow deprived this winter so far. Because maybe we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, when I was back home over Christmas, it didn't snow at all. And then it started snowing just when I come back to Brussels. And then
Mm.
since I've been here, it hasn't really snowed either. And
Oh.
it always feels beautiful walking through parks and forests, woods, when everywhere is full of snow. Of course, when it's fresh snow, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful. Then after a few days and it gets a little bit muddy and it's like icy, then I understand it's one, nowhere near as beautiful, and two, a bit of a pain. It's a bit of a
Mm.
pain in the neck, especially if you do need to drive. But yeah, maybe I'm still a child because I still love snow days.
Oh.
And you touched on it just then, but do you genuinely notice that there is less snow nowadays in the UK than there was 50 years ago? Or do you think it is just that perception because obviously you were smaller when you were a child? I don't know how much difference there is.
Mm, I don't know because sometimes we have had a lot of snow and we have the wind, so it's drifted, quite recently and it's been deep. But I just maybe it's that when your recollections of your childhood, you remember the times that it snowed more. So you think there was more snow. I actually was a 60s baby, so apparently it was really bad in the 60s. Um, I don't know, it might even be the temperatures these days. Obviously, things have changed, but yeah, it just doesn't feel as if there's as much snow as there used to be. But it depends where you live. If I go up to Scotland, I'm sure I'll find lots of snow. And actually, not too far away. I think it was Inglesborough. We had my brother-in-law over from Australia visiting, and he went on a walk. He says he's freezing cold now, and he actually took photos, and it was icy and a little bit snowy, just on what we call the tops, on the hills. So that was quite a change for him. So he probably thinks, "Oh, it's really snowy." It's all about perception and what you compare things to. So,
Exactly. I mean, I have no idea personally. It's true that obviously with global warming, climate change, in theory, there will be less and less snow because our winters are getting milder and milder. We don't
mm,
go as far down in terms of temperature anymore. It's not as cold as it used to be. And again,
mm,
bringing up other students that I've got around the world, I have some students in Poland and they're complaining about it being like 15 degrees this week. But
wow.
what like shocked me was that they were saying that this is kind of like not normal anymore. But when they were growing up, it used to be consistently like minus 20 degrees in the height of winter.
Um,
And then another student who lives near Milan in Italy, I think there are the Winter Olympic Games maybe starting next week. And she was saying that, well, we're looking at the Alps and we're looking at the mountains, and it's not even snowing that much. And we've got these Winter Olympic Games coming up. So I don't know what the reason is, but bottom line is the most important thing is I love snow. Okay, and given that I mentioned the Winter Olympics with snow, that's all about skiing, snowboarding, and I don't know, all of these other random sports in winter. But, Mum, are you a fan of skiing, snowboarding, ice skating, and so on?
Well, I have been skiing. I was quite a lot younger. I was with Dad, so we went to Austria. There was a lot of snow then. It was lovely. I had never skied, and your dad had done sort of cross country skiing, which he'd managed to do in Scotland and things. So I was a complete novice. I was on what they call the nursery slopes, and I did get better. I got to the point where yes, I could go down, I could stop, I could slalom a little bit, but nowhere near as much as dad, because he's just generally sporty. So it became the norm as the week went on that I did the lessons. We skied a little bit together after lunch. And then Bruce went off and did, I'm not saying it was a black run, but it was definitely an advanced run, which I definitely wasn't confident enough, because I felt as I got faster and faster, it was just like a bit of panic setting in, sort of like, I'm going too fast, I need to stop. Whereas he was just like, whoa, and oh, so I just did like the touristy things in the afternoon. I went for, something to eat. I'd just wander around a few shops, and then we'd meet again afterwards. So he had his adrenaline fix, which he needs because he does all other things like, the climbing and the mountain biking. So I enjoyed it, yes. Was I a natural? No. But I did used to go ice skating, because a town near us does have an indoor ice skating rink. So I did used to go there when I was little. My dad used to take me. He was probably as good as I was, which is not brilliant, but we could do twirls, we could go from side to side. I even got my own ice skates because I felt quite confident, and also because the ones you borrowed were a bit shabby, a bit hard, the leather and stuff. So I think that was one Christmas present that I got. So yeah, I could say that I like skiing to a degree. When it gets too scary and too fast, I'm gone. Bruce loved it. But yeah, I think ice skating was more my thing. I was much more in control, and I don't like feeling out of control. I need to know I can stop and be safe. I'm just a wuss. But
That's
what
a
about
nice. Go on. What?
what about you, Lewis? I've not even
Well,
been skiing.
I am a little bit of a wuss as well, and that's a nice advanced word. A wuss is a way of saying like a chicken, somebody who is easily scared of things. And whilst you were saying that and thinking of being in Austria, that I've never been to Austria, but I'd love to go skiing there. But I am a little bit of a wuss, and that's why I can understand that ice skating is a lot easier. And worst comes to worst, you're gonna like get a bruise, maybe. You
Yeah.
might fall over, you'll be on the ground, it might be a little bit embarrassing, but it's not going to be too painful. And it's kind of nice. It's a cool feeling when you go ice skating and you're skating
Mhm.
around the ice rink. I remember doing this sometimes in Leeds in winter because they'd have an outdoor ice rink, which would be open for like 2 or 3 months around Christmas, January, and February. So we'd sometimes go with friends, and it's quite a cool like thing to do whenever you're going with a group of people or on a date as well. So that's ice skating, which I think is pretty cool, and it's nice and relaxing and something you can do at the weekend without spending too much money.
Mhm.
Then moving on to skiing slash snowboarding. I've never tried snowboarding, but I always wanted to because I liked skateboarding when I was growing up as well. So I thought the two would be related and there would be transferable skills between skateboarding and snowboarding. But for some reason, perhaps because it's easier or my friends were more into skiing, I thought, hey, I'll follow the crowd. I'll basically jump on the bandwagon and try to get into skiing. So what we
Mhm.
did was go to an artificial slope, which was in Sheffield or in Manchester. I don't remember exactly. And we'd go as a group of friends on the train, or we'd get a lift, and then we'd rent the skis, the sticks, and all of the stuff. And then you'd go up and down the same slope. So this was a little bit of training that we did in the run up to going on a ski trip,
Yeah.
because at school, when I think we were 15, maybe, we had a big ski trip where 40, 50, or 60 people from the same year at secondary school all went by coach, I think,
Mm.
from England, from Leeds, all the way to like the near Mont Blanc, essentially. So it was right on the border between Italy and France. And we stayed there for like 5 days. We were skiing during the day and then doing some activities or playing games in the evening. And I remember it was amazing. I had such a great time, and all of my best mates were there as well. I wasn't very good, but I was good enough to be able to go down the slopes without any real problem. And that practice made me a lot better. But now I think about it, and you mentioning how you're a wuss, and me agreeing with you that I'm also a wuss,
Oh.
something that I'm now not very keen on is anything that involves heights. And a lot of the time, if you go to a ski station, you need to get on like a cable car. And
Mm.
for me, cable cars that take you like from the bottom or the middle of the mountain up to the top sometimes to start skiing down the hill. Oh, I start panicking. I look down, I look
Mm.
around, my legs start to like go jelly. So I'd love to go skiing again, despite it being quite expensive. But there are these little fears, like heights, for example, that maybe make me think it's fine. I'll save up my money and go on a summer holiday rather than a winter holiday.
Mm.
I'm a wuss.
I, Yeah, I don't like the cable cars either. I do remember that part of it. Um, I know some are enclosed, so that's slightly better, but I remember when we were on a particular slope, they were more like swing seats. So they were constantly going round and you had to position yourself. And then basically the sort of seat came and it sort of scooped you up. So I remember holding on really, really tight and my knuckles were white and I had my skis like this. And I was just thinking, don't look down. Don't look down. And then, of course, as you get closer and you can jump off, you're like, oh, oh that was quite nice when
It's
it's over.
lovely. Yeah. But yeah, don't look down. Don't look down.
Uh,
Okay, let's move on to the next question. And we've only got a
mhm.
couple left. And this one is related to something I said earlier because I mentioned I've got a radiator right next to me. So in winter, do you normally have the heating on all of the time, or do you prefer to wrap up and save money?
It just depends. If we have company, in other words, if people are coming over, I like the house to be warm and welcoming. So we have the heating on, we have the fire on. Your dad's usually hovering around and turning the thermostat down so it's not as hot to save on money. But that's fine. Now, when it's just the two of us, I would rather economize. I would rather save some money, be a little bit stingy just for the two of us. And so the heating comes on in the morning, then it goes off once we're sort of up and dressed. And then we try to leave it as late as possible, ideally until tea time, which like 5 or 6 o'clock, until we put it on, because then we'll just be sat in an evening. So we try to have it on all evening. So I'm a little bit tight with the heating, but only when it's just the two of us. And also, you can be doing jobs, you can be doing chores. I find if you're doing ironing, top tip, very boring, I'm sorry, but want to iron your clothes and you're stood ironing, the heat of that, it's actually, it does get you quite warm and you can have a fleece on. But yeah, so if people are here, absolutely, the heating is on full blast. It's roasting. Sometimes I think even with you at Christmas, it's we're all around the table and the oven's on, and it's like we need to open a window. It's too hot. But that's because if we have people here, I never want people to feel cold. I don't want them to go home and think, oh, it was freezing in their house, have cold feet. So we're really generous. We like to have it lovely and warm, lots of things to eat as well. But yeah, just the two of us, I would say turn it down and ideally turn it off, layer up. That's just me. And also, it's so expensive. The cost of living. There's always the debate for people. I feel so sorry when the saying is of some people, it's they have a choice. They have to choose between heat or eat, which is awful. So we're really lucky we can have the heating on. But obviously we also keep an eye on the price. We have a smart meter, which can be a bit scary because you can see exactly how much you spent, but it's a good thing because you can think, wow, that tumble dryer eats electricity. It uses so much electricity, which is another bad thing about winter. Because if it was summer, you could put the clothes outside. Whereas obviously winter, you're having to put the radiators on, the tumble dryer on, just to have clean clothes. So, and what about you? You see, you're at the top of the building, so you might get everybody else's heat rising. So that's a good thing for you.
No, no, for sure. With me, when I'm back home with you and dad, to be honest, I'm in favor of keeping the heating to a minimum, really, especially if we're having a meal and we've got the oven on, because that gives off a lot of heat as well. And if I'm eating, I get really hot. So I don't really need the heating on that much. Here in Brussels, we've always got it on pretty much in winter, but just a little bit. We don't
Mm,
overdo it, I don't think, because for me, there's nothing worse than going inside somewhere and then having that huge change in temperature from being outside and it being 0 or -degrees, where you're
mm,
freezing. Again, my cheeks are bright red, and I'm like, oh, it's cold. And then you step foot inside, and you get suddenly this big waft of hot
mm,
air and heat, which might be smelly as well sometimes. Like, if an example would be if I'm leaving home and then I'm walking down the hill to meet up with my friends in a pub, I'm going to be walking quite quickly. So I'm going to be getting quite hot like that. And then I'll enter in a really, really warm pub where you've got like body heat, but also the artificial central heating. So then that change for me is awful. I just start sweating immediately again. So I think there needs to be a bit of a balance when it comes to heating. Of course, you're not going to freeze. You need to have some kind of heating on. But I don't mind the heating just being like 15 degrees, for example. And then I can wrap up, wear a t shirt, a jumper, some nice warm jogger bottoms or something like that, because it feels kind of cozy and nice and warm when you're able to maybe wrap up. And sometimes when I'm teaching, I'll be sat here in my English corner and then we'll be having a bit of small talk about the weather. And I'll show to my students, like, oh, yeah, I've got my blanket. So yeah, I'm kind of on the fence, but if I have to choose, I would rather it be a little bit too cold, but not
mm.
freezing, so I'm able to wrap up and get cozy with a blanket or many different layers.
That's just reminded me that one of the big things that seems to be a winter thing now is heated blankets. So that you don't I know, I know, my brother-in-law's got one, and they're great, and friend of mine, she swears by them. She says they're fantastic because she works from home and she plugs it in, it's over her knees, so she saves on the heating, and she says she's just, like, really cozy, so who knew? That is the next big thing, heated blanket.
Maybe,
Mm,
maybe. I think that's a little bit too far, but I get hot very easily. So
mm,
maybe it's not for me, but other people, by all means, enjoy the heated blankets.
mm.
And now, I mentioned different layers and clothes. So, how about we finish off with a bit of a famous saying and we can give our thoughts whether we agree or not with this saying? So, I've heard this and I've heard it in different languages as well. And it is that there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothes. Mum, do you agree with this sentiment?
Absolutely. I do. I do. Um, yes. I mean, obviously, if it's cold, you need to dress appropriately. I may have mentioned this, but a few weeks ago, it was mine and Dad's birthday. So we went on a little weekend away and we went to the Lake District and it rained. But it didn't just rain, it threw it down. It was absolutely pouring with rain. And we stepped out of the car and I had just it was a surprise. So I wasn't really prepared. So I just had this nice coat, lovely coat, but totally unsuitable. So I ended up, I wore Dad's waterproofs. So Bruce said, look, I have some spare over trousers. I have a spare hooded anorak. So this lovely romantic weekend away, it was lovely. We enjoyed ourselves. But if you'd have seen me on the walk around the fells, I had, well, I had Bruce's, as I say, his waterproof trousers on. I had his hat on and I had the brim. So you could just see this little face. So there was no glare whatsoever, but I was warm. I was dry. I mean, the only downside was that my little waterproof shoes weren't high enough. So about an hour into the walk, my feet were cold. So a few hours in, I was getting a bit like, we need to turn back. My feet are really chilly now. So had I had proper boots as well, it would have been lovely. As it was, mm, slight problem with the cold and wet feet. But do you know what? Yes, absolutely. If I hadn't been able to borrow Bruce's clothes, then we were like twins. Yeah, that just kept me warm and dry and cozy. And so I enjoyed myself. And the temperature there, it was pretty cold. So yes, I mean, I don't know what you've sort of got in the way of waterproofs. You don't go walking all that much. And obviously you're much broader than Dad. But I seem to think when you went somewhere once we got you it used to be called a cagoule, which is not a
Hmm.
very cool thing. Or if you went, I think I got them because you're going to a festival, and I think you were at that teenage bit where you would rather be soaking wet than wear the cagoule. So sometimes it's an age thing as well. That I can remember your sister. She used to go out with her friends and not take a coat. It would be evening and there would be little tops. And I'd be thinking, you must be freezing. So whether perhaps when you're younger, you don't feel it as much, or you choose looking good before being cozy, I don't know. But I used to think, not really dressed for the weather. But do you know what? That's what being young is. So, hey.
No, no, absolutely. I agree. And that reminds me, and I was actually chatting with a friend a couple of weeks ago about this, like, again, reminiscing of when we were at school and at uni, saying, like, oh, do you remember when we used to just go out in a t shirt in December? Or for a Christmas night out, we'd just be wearing a shirt and we'd like
Yeah.
walk down, walk around, we'd go outside, we'd be doing all of these things. And I was thinking, like, I don't remember suffering that much. I don't remember
No.
suffering from the cold that much, but I did this consistently for years and years and years, where I'd just go out in a t shirt and some jeans. And
Mm,
now that is unthinkable. Like
mm,
maybe living in Spain changed me. And now I always wrap up whenever I go out in winter. But I think it is an age thing as well, or a question of prioritizing your comfort over your coolness. Because when you're
mm.
young, you kind of want to make an impression, you want to look cool, in your opinion. And as you get older, you care less and less about it. But yeah, thinking when I was at uni, I'd just go out and it'd be so
Mm.
windy. It might be hailing, it might be snowing. And no matter the weather, I'd still be going out in either just a t shirt or a shirt.
Mm.
I was bonkers.
Well, that's youth for you.
And now I'm an old man.
Oh, you're only in your 30s. You're young. Wait, you're as old as me, Lewis. Wow.
Wow, wow, wow.
Oh, no, but it's just like you say, it's just I think when you're young, you don't want to look like an anorak or something. It's just like, yeah, shirt or dress. And one time that did remind me that we went, and the last thing, sorry, is that when we used to come and visit you quite often in Spain, and I remember one year, Bruce and I, we were walking around and because we're not used to the heat as much, and it was maybe October, and we had shorts and t-shirts on, and yet I'd noticed that a lot of the Spanish people, they had like a jacket on or a coat, and I was thinking, they must be so hot. But to them, it was actually quite a cool day. And for us English, we were just like, oh, this is a nice day. And we sort of made the most of the sunshine. So we were just like, oh, let's just wear a t-shirt.
No, no, I think we have any excuse, any like little ray of sunshine, and we're wearing a t-shirt and shorts immediately. If you think about roofers, like builders, as soon as
Mm,
there's a little bit of sun, they'll be taking their top off. So I guess that sums up lots of British people's approach to the sun, where we see the sun, it's like, okay, we need to take advantage of this. We need to make the
mm,
most of it. And if, of
mm,
course, you live in a very sunny country or city, it just becomes the norm. So
mm,
you don't
mm,
need to seize every moment that much. But anyway, I think that's a good way to wrap up this podcast. And notice that I said wrap up because wrap
mm.
up, you can wrap up a present, you can wrap up if you wear many layers, but also you can wrap up a podcast, a presentation, a meeting, meaning like to conclude it, to finish. So thank you everybody for watching, listening. Thank you, Mum, for joining. And we hope you liked it. And we hope you like the next one as well. So thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.